Welcome to the Was It Good Though podcast. We'll be bringing raw and unfiltered energy for each movie and TV show that we will be reviewing. Just think of it as turning your movie group chat into a podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Jazz.
I am Jason. And man, per usual, I got some house rules I want to run through with you. So let's get started. One, we will be spoiling this review. So if you haven't seen it, you haven't watched it, please stop, go check it out, and then come listen to this review. Number two, please like, share, subscribe. Let your friends know, let your church members know, let your family know what we are doing over here at the Was It Good Though podcast. Number three, have fun. We just kicking shit, having fun with my friends. That's what we do. And last but not least, this is not a kid-friendly podcast. So if you're watching with your kids, that's something on you that has nothing to do with us. Let's get to this review.
You think this is a biopic, but you didn't think One Love was a biopic?
I just think one of them felt like a highlight reel. One of them felt like it took me to that place. Like I was like, damn, I can relate. Even the flashbacks used were properly used.
What you mean? I haven't seen One Love yet. What you mean it took you to that place?
Yeah.
So One Love. The review is out, of course, dropped last Tuesday. But when it comes to One Love, it just felt like one big highlight reel. You know what I mean? It felt like an and one mixtape. With music that didn't even fit the accord. They could have literally used the Bob Marley song to give us the highlight reel. And they just gave us like the national anthem as they glossed over his life.
I haven't seen One Love yet, but that's my issue with a lot of biopics. Like I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, and like it does feel like a highlight reel. Like, and that's actually, I guess we'll get into it with this, but that's why actually I really appreciated Rustin, because it didn't feel like a highlight reel. I know exactly what you mean.
And guess what, Jazz? Your work boo said Bohemian Rhapsody is becoming one of his favorite movies.
I did see that tweet.
It's a good film. Don't get me wrong. It's a good movie, but like to Jason's point, like, and I think I said this to you, Jazz, that like it's hard to like, or maybe it was Tori, but it's hard to take someone's life and like boil it down to 2 hours, even 3. That's why like with a lot of these, I think they should be miniseries. That's why I like the American Dream, the Jackson 5 story, because like it was long as hell, but like you need that. So yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody is good. Go watch that if people haven't, but it's it felt like a highlight reel. I feel that.
Man, but let me get into this episode 93. This is the Was It Good Though podcast about movies and TV shows. I am one of your hosts. I am Jason.
I am Jazz.
And we brought our brother with us today. And shockingly, you know, typically we almost kind of typecast him, but he's not a typecast at all. The man wears many hats or do-rags as he has on today. He can pretty much talk about damn near anything. We typically, like I said, bring him in for horror, but today we got a little bit of politics, a little bit of LGBTQIA conversation going on today. My brother Chris, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Happy Sunday. And yeah, I typically am the horror guy, but I do watch other stuff.
Yeah, now you get into a lot of shit. You get into a lot of stuff. I think our conversation behind horror there's just so much passion that comes from it, and so many different ideas that we have. So it's dope to, as Rustin say, have that free flowing conversation amongst everybody, because it just goes so much better. But yeah, man, Rustin, I really had no prior knowledge to this brother's plight, this brother's history. So it was dope to, again, second week in a row for me. Well, I kind of knew a little bit about Bob, but when it comes to Rustin, I had actually absolutely no knowledge. It's something that you brought up, Chris, about how well it was done. And me and Jeff's like, yeah, let's get into it, but shit, let's bring Chris in too, since he really enjoyed it. Before I get to you, Chris, Jazz, did you have any knowledge of this of Rustin? Sorry.
I didn't. This was actually the first time I kind of even found out who he was and his name, because I think obviously Coleman Domingo was getting a lot of praise for his role in this movie, and as I've seen, it was well earned. And so I was just like, I don't even know who this Rustin guy is. And so after watching this movie, I was just like, this seems like a piece of history that should be taught in a way, especially if you're learning about the March on Washington, because you see people behind the scenes, and you had a lot of iconic individuals in our American history that were in this movie. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's unfortunate that, and I mean, I will definitely go to you, Chris, but like me and Jason not even knowing who this individual was, and obviously his impact and influence of things that Martin was able to utilize, like his nonviolent protest, like to think like, oh, Rustin has something to do with that. So it was a lot of information, very good information provided in this movie. But prior to this, I had no idea who this man was. And I felt like, damn, that's very unfortunate.
It is. We talk about it all the time, though, Jazz, like just how much. And I think I felt like super shame, embarrassed, and within recent 5 years, probably just learning about the Tulsa bombings. Like that was something I didn't know, but then I figured out like I knew of it, but not enough because I had been hearing people use so many different words and different things to frame it to find it out. So finding out somebody this big in history, like the influence, the type of person that there is, and you just see different, you can see different like movies, politics, like different things. We just really pay attention to just the type of person that Rustin is, just what it inspired, whether it's for good or bad. I can, I'm thinking right now that what's the scandal? Like I feel like, Kerry Washington character damn near, but for evil, but it almost, just how influential the person is. But Chris, what about you, brother? Did you have any prior knowledge to Rustin prior to,
I didn't. I had never actually heard about him. So this movie was the first time that I knew who he was. I had never heard his name before, and kind of like you, Jason, like I realized I actually have a lot of blind spots, and I like history, but when it comes to civil rights, like even with like Dr. King and Malcolm X. Like I just read the autobiography of Malcolm X like 2 years ago. Dr. King, I think there's like a lot of I'm actually reading a book about him now. There's like a lot of misconceptions about like who he was and what he really said. I think people just like take a couple cherry pick a couple of speeches. But about Rustin, the closest that I had got to knowing about him is that I've heard that there were like gay men and women who were part of the civil rights movement who got pushed to the back. And then one of the women, Ella Baker. I feel bad for forgetting her name, but the character actually alludes to that too. So that's the closest I got to Rustin, actually.
Gotcha. So that's dope. This is something new for us, to be able to speak about and go into.
I do have a question before we get into this movie of something that's actually affecting us today. And I'm currently in Florida, and there's a lot of bills being passed about African American history being removed from schools. And actually, I think they already have implemented that rule. So right now, certain African-American facts and history aren't able to be taught in schools, or books are taken out of the library. Mm-hmm. So let me ask y'all this, and Chris, I'll go to you first since you are our guest. How do you feel about that, with that happening? Because I know a lot of people will have the idea of, we can just teach our own history in school. Well, all of us, I'm sorry. All of us are 30 plus years old. And this is somebody who we never even heard of. So do you think your personal self with African-American history, if you remove all of that from schools, do you think if you were to have kids, you'd be able to teach them African-American history?
I would have to learn a lot. And I think that, like Jason has said, like I realized I had a lot of blind spots. And I think that, of course, I live in Florida too. So there actually already have been bills been passed. And that's a big fight where like teachers are losing their jobs, stuff getting taken out. Even at my job, like you damn near can't even say like diversity and inclusion anymore because of governmental bills. But I mean, thinking about just, and Jazz, you and I are both from North Carolina. So I'm sure we have probably similar public school experiences, but we touched on Black history, but it was really kind of touch and go, like really light. So just imagining that, like if you reduce that even more, how, just to be honest, how ignorant we would be. Because I kind of feel you coming from, Jason. Like I feel bad that, like, damn, like I should know these things and we don't. So it would take a lot of, and I think Barry, our friend Jazz, was speaking about that. I think he and I had a conversation to where, because he's from Detroit, which is a really black city, and he said he went to a charter school where they put an emphasis on Black history being taught. So everyone doesn't have that option. So I think that we would have to become, speaking for myself, I would have to become really, really educated to teach our Black history, because I don't know it. And even Jason, you talked about Tulsa. Like I realized there was like a lot of other cities that were thriving like that, that experienced like that. So it wasn't, Black Wall Street was not the only example of that. It's been a lot.
No, it's not. But I think that's one of the first, outside of like the Mississippi burnings, like I feel like some things are like super well known. It's almost like it, because of how big it was and the media attention that it caught, it had to be taught, or it had to be told to the children. Like Medgar Evers and things of that nature, like those things, I feel like it had to be told. And some of the other stories kind of get watered down, get lost in a way, but it also, I feel like it's a way of almost teaching us complacency to a certain extent. Like it's almost like if we don't talk about it, it's things, but but it's just like if Chris, we was just talking about relationships and cheating. And certain things, it's almost like, as long as you don't know if you can, live within that the complacency of the situation of not knowing and just going through, like you can almost move in that way. But if you really had the entire truth, how would you move then, or how would things be in that way? And it's kind of scary because, like I said, when we go to school, we're raised to know, Christopher Columbus and Thanksgiving, and how all these things are, how these things are. We celebrate all these things. We get in high school, or at least I got in high school. That was and it was a white man. He was all right. That was a lot. We were horrible to these different people. How we, typically we came for things, and we slaughtered and killed to get all these things. So I don't think we would have this big uprising if all the truth began to come out, but I do feel like it would. I think things would change a bit more if the books could actually, open up their history. But the history is so long with so much fucked up shit that they probably scared at the same exact time.
Now, Jason, you bring up a good point, because I know Jazz and we watched Killers of the Flower Moon, and I know you listened to the book. I had read it. I had also read this book called The New Jim Crow. And even like this other book I've read called Drug Use for Grown-Ups, which talks about some of the racial stigmatization of drugs. But Jason, you make a good point, because like about complacency, because if we really study our history and just see like the atrocities that have happened to the Black community, I mean, at best, every Black person would mistrust white people, at best. And at worst, we probably like really, really hate them. So like, I do think that not speaking about the things that have happened, it could be like a form of like just keeping us like kind of complacent, because if you don't know what has happened, like ignorance is bliss. But if we really study those things, like even with myself, I have to kind of like be mindful of like the reading like the news, or reading like Black history, not from like ignorance, but because it'll piss you off. And like Killers of the Flower Moon, I mean, there was some times where I'm like, wow, like white people are terrible. And I try not to generalize, but like, yo, the movie didn't do it justice, man. And that's why, yeah, and that's why Jazz and I, we were speaking, like it didn't do it justice. If you read Black history, I see why the niggas was mad, man. Like I see why Malcolm X was pissed off all the time, man, because they had a lot of reasons to be. So I feel what you're saying, Jason.
But this movie kind of addresses that, because it says Martin Luther King was the same exact way, but it almost feels like history and the books try to pervert Martin's message, or who he was, to make him this super nonviolent, peace going, type of person. But Rustin, as he said within this story, when he met Martin had guns all over the house. He said it felt like you going into war, or going into a battle whenever you come into it. And the thing with this, like I said, this movie begins in 1954. My granddad was born in 1951. like this is I didn't even say great. I said my granddad. You know what I mean? Like it's very close. But have you guys heard any firsthand stories from somebody, family member or anything from like those times or back in those days? If y'all even knew how to have those conversations.
You got it, Chris.
So I'll go ahead and tell this. So I was actually telling this to another friend. So my grandfather is from Montezuma, Georgia, a really small country town. And he was shot by a white man. He lived, but he was 14. I don't have the exact details, but what happened was he was outside and the white man said that he thought my grandfather was a deer. And we all knew it was bullshit. And he just saw him and had the opportunity and he shot my grandfather. And that was one of he left the South soon after that. But he, almost killed him and he was a kid, and of course, white man wasn't punished because, he was white. Fortunately, my grandfather was able to live, but my grandfather, he also integrated the fire department up in Delaware. That's where that's where he's from. Well, he was born in Georgia, but he spent his life in Delaware. So just dealing with the pushback from that. That's my grandfather on my mother's side. My dad's father, my grandfather, he's from Tupelo, Mississippi, and he was a very private man, but I don't know the details, but I think that he experienced some sort of like racial trauma, like growing up in Mississippi, because he was born in like 1945. So just imagine being in Mississippi in like the 50s and 60s, So something happened to him. He lived in there. He's passed away now, but I do think he experienced something awful living there, but he just never went into detail. But that's the closest experience that I've had. And of course, like my parents, well, I could tell stories about my parents and everything. They have their own dealing with the police and everything, but that's a whole. I'll just stay with those two examples.
Yeah, for me, I didn't really. One of my grandfathers passed away before I was born, and then my other one, he died when I was very young. My grandmother's, not too much. My mother was from New York, and her father had a diner, but I don't remember us discussing anything of any kind of. Well, it was New York, and they weren't on that type of vibe. The South, I mean, the South. But no, I don't think I've had a conversation where they've. Not that we couldn't have it, but I don't think I've learned any kind of stories, anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not something that you think about. Like I said, it's
the kind of conversations me and my dad be having. Yeah. Actually, after this episode, I'm gonna be like, "Yo, you got any stories you want to share?"
Actually, I do have something with my dad. Well, one, he's from Indiana, and he would just tell me that the racism in the Midwest is comparable to the South. Like sometimes people think that it's just isolated, but he said like the white people there, like his word is he calls them treacherous. That was his exact word. Growing up in like this, he's born in '64. But one thing that my dad would say that always stuck out to me is that whenever there was a crime, let's say that it was a black man, like it was like the alleged perpetrator was black man, he would say that like how you see in movies, how they would say that the perpetrator was either between 5'8" and like 6'6". Like, so and that would give them an excuse to like literally hassle every single black person. And for a long time, I thought he was just like, as a kid, I thought maybe he was exaggerating. But then like over the years, seeing that how like the police have just mistreated black people, that's just showed me that a lot of the things that people have said about like the abuse that people have, and not that I didn't think it was real, but this is before like cell phones, before the internet, people were speaking about this. And my dad was saying, even as a kid, like a black person could commit a crime like other side of the city, and that would give like every single white person, every single cop to like hassle and profile every single black person. And that was something that always stuck to me. He told me that as a kid. It was just like that stuck with me.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it was definitely different. I hear from my granddad. I know my dad's grandfather. He migrated from Alabama based on the situation, and that's how his side ended up in Memphis. So it's always interesting to see and hear those different stories. Now, the movie opens up very hard, saying 1954, where they say segregation was at that point, it was unconstitutional. But of course, you see the different things from this is 1954, how many different things that the kids they're showing, they're opening up on children. I'm in Little Rock, we make folk jokes and things like that. But Little Rock Nine, that's that situation was here. So it's definitely a big thing. I was just talking to my kid's mother, and she was saying that Jakara wants to go to that school, and it's just different, or just crazy, just thinking about the history that stems and that truly comes from it. But of course, within the movie, it does flash forward, and we get our first conflict of the movie. So you get, Rustin is trying to lead a march, and of course, he wants to do it with his friend Martin. But of course, the NAACP, which this may go into, because I hear a lot of different stories about how NAACP has never really been for us or really backed us. And like you kind of like when you see things like this, it's like, oh, so there was. And I'm gonna ask y'all before I even just really blame them. Could you really blame them in this moment? Like do you just it's easier saying it because we're in hindsight and we're looking back at it. But like in that moment, just think about some of your most precious situations or different moments. And like I said, it probably still won't even measure up because you don't have things opposing, killing, and you seeing this happening. Do y'all feel a way about how the NAACP handled this moment?
So, excuse me. So for me, and maybe it's because looking at our history, I realize a lot of things have to happen for you to get over that hump. Mm-hmm. So no, I don't want to see people that support our cause getting hurt, getting beat by the police, getting killed, kids getting hit with fire hoses. Have y'all ever got hit with a fire hose before?
No, but it looks, I've heard that it hurts.
Listen, so the camp that I went to, they had a fire truck come. We was out there playing and shit. Listen, you can't be close to it. You got to be far. And now when I think about it, it was a black camp too. I don't know why they had the fire truck coming and hosing us.
That was a hot day. That was training.
Damn, Jason, they was preparing us. Make sure they got that tough skin. But so and that's from a far distance of getting hit with a fire hose. That shit stings. Now, up close of obviously the footage that we've seen during all of the protests, I'm just sitting here like, wow. So if I was on NAACP, I can understand the hesitation, but then I also would understand not doing anything will not work. You had to have multiple net turners to get shit done. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
That's a tough one. You know what, before I let you answer that question, I may not, because I do feel like they handled it. I do feel like they mishandled the way, how they were going to handle this situation. So let me not say that we feel the way in that, but as far as with their hesitation, do you understand why they had the hesitation, Chris?
With this, so in this opening scene, so you're talking about when Dr. King had to be convinced? Or later down.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess to me it feels like the initial conflict because Rustin and Martin was down to do it. Then they went back and then the NAACP went and talked to Martin and kind of now we can't agree with this.
Got you. I think what their issue was like the size, right? Was that their issue?
I think it was just they didn't want Rustin being the main lead on that, because Wilkes, who was Chris Rock's character, he hated Rustin. Yeah. And then you had Powell, also hated him, and plus he was also into politics, and so they didn't want all of those people protesting at the Democratic convention because you have somebody who's close with the NAACP, who was Powell. He was like, nah, don't bring all of that where I'm at. So he was like, do that over there, not where I'm not at this convention.
Got you. See, that's what I thought the issue was. Of course, him being gay, like that came up, and they didn't want him to be the face. But that's what I thought the issue was, that they was like, don't do that over here. And if that's the reasoning, and I mean, I guess hindsight, like, looking at things in retrospect is always easy to say, like, okay, we should have done this, we should have done that. But I mean, even in hindsight, I mean, they should have, because like I'm with you, Jazz, you have to do something. Like not putting your head in the sand isn't going to solve anything. So I don't want to be too harsh on them, because I'm sure there was a lot of factors that went into it. It's probably not as easy to say, okay, like there's a lot of things that go into it. But looking at it from hindsight, then yeah, that they definitely dropped the ball based on what the movie depicted.
Yeah. But I guess the biggest thing in that was them basically Roy and them saying they were going to out Martin as homosexual. And I was just like, whoa, like and that's where I'm like, all right, because we can, like I said, we can have the conversation of why it can't happen, because this is a safety risk for too many people. It could have been everything else except a person's, sexuality, but to a fault almost. Rustin was very confident in, regardless of what this moment is or what it is, friendship is going to, be. And I don't know if that was, I think, I don't know if there's toxic masculinity in how Martin went about it. Because, Rustin felt as if once he put his resignation in, Martin's gonna be like, nah, we're not letting you resign. We're not gonna let you do that. That just seems very, I don't know how many people that put a resignation letter in, the job's like, oh no,
yeah,
we're not letting you go.
Actually, they might offer you more.
I've had that happen too.
Than the job that you about to go to. They might be like, where can we get you to where you would stay? You will get that, especially if the manager is your ace. Mm-hmm. So I get his confidence. They out eating grits together.
Yeah.
With no sugar. With no sugar.
Stop. So, we're not doing
that. You know what? And that's why he accepted his.
That ain't why.
Exactly. That's why they fell out. If you would have put some sugar in it, they would have been cool. Thank you, Jazz.
No, Martin liked that grits. Martin said this grits better than his aunt's.
Now he was like, okay, they cool, but had he added some sugar to it, he would have been like, hey,
they'd have been good.
That's my nigga.
There's no way you get in a time that you go into a time machine, going to that moment to sprinkle some sugar and be like, all right, I done changed everything. We about to do all of this right now.
But not Jason. I think that what it was, and I wanted to do a little bit more research on it, but I didn't. But also I think that like Martin being attached to someone that was gay would have been for lack of a better word, a career killer. Or it would have stopped things, because it was very, very homophobic. And that's why like people had to be in the closet, and why there were so many people like organizers that were gay that they couldn't be on the forefront. And like we looking at it today and be like, yeah, that's fucked up. But at the same time, people wouldn't have taken them seriously, even the own Black community. So Martin was kind of between a rock and a hard place, because it's gonna sound like he probably was a bad friend, but in that moment, he probably had to put the movement above the friendship. Because let's say if they outed them, even if like Martin wasn't gay, if they feel like he's associated with a gay man, now the movement might lose steam. So like the movement was bigger than the friendship. So I'm not gonna be too hard on him, and I think that's why like they were able to reconcile.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I definitely get it. Within that moment, but of course, kind of flash forward a few years later, Rustin gets invited out to the elevator, the party. He's, they pretty much like they're hanging with. It seemed like their crew, whatever party or whatever they have going on, it was all of them at the event. What? Am I wrong?
What you mean, all of them?
Like it was like the people in your picture, like the whatever.
Oh, his crew, yeah, and I think he had I think he had some of Malcolm's people too, because they had like a meeting, but then it went short, so then they just all came over for some drinks.
Yeah, so they were supposed to do the protest, but they didn't because of whatever happened, on the news. And one of the guys was explaining his experience to the team, and then this is when Rustin and Blythe, they have. That was a hard conversation. He kind of went at him, kind of tough. But Rustin seems to have tough skin, and then he was kind of used to, those type of conversations. And then we meet Tom. Tom was, interesting character.
Was he? Was he interesting, Jason?
It
No.
was giving love in basketball. It was giving love in basketball because Tom was he was there. He was somebody that was gonna call you out on your shit. Tom called Rustin out, a lot of times, and and those be the times I'd be kind of like I ain't gonna lie, I'd be feeling away. Not because you can be who you are. It's just when it's the white man that's doing it. It's just I just feel a way about him being the one to correct you on what you got going on, and it's like man, and like I know the relationship part of this was fictionalized, so Elias wasn't real. I don't know if Tom was or not, but I'm pretty sure there was actual people within these, unless they,
Rustin was out here wild, like.
Based
He
on,
was, yeah.
but but I guess there's, Barry, the other Barry. He said, people act like you can't chew bubblegum and walk at the same time. So I mean, him being able to, live his life on the side, it wasn't affecting his day to day, but it was messy because it was day to day type situations, and these people are very powerful, very influential people. That's trying to coexist, but Tom gets Rustin on the right path, which leads him to begin. We need to do a march on Washington. I didn't realize this was the march on Washington. Did y'all realize that in this? Because I was just
Nah, I didn't either. I didn't realize. Nah.
I
I was a little surprised when it became the March on Washington. I thought it was just a protest. So I'm kind of Tom was a real person, so I don't know if that's really how it happened, but yeah, that was yeah. I think that's what it was gonna be.
Jazz, what did you think of them coming together for the March on Washington? This collective.
I thought this scene was it was really inspiring. It was a lot of fun. I love that he was accepting all of their ideas. He's like, put it on the board. And then when you have Tom thinking of an idea, he was like, no, that's not gonna work. And Rustin's like, no, you aren't destroying an idea before you allow it to grow. And so it's just like, even we can use that till today. We have good ideas. We're so quick to dismiss our own ideas without actually putting more thought into it and allowing that seed to grow into something that could possibly be the next big thing. So it's like, stop saying no to yourself, stop doubting yourself, and just see where you can take that. So just him supporting his team and them all coming together, he didn't treat the men different from the women. Everybody was a collective. And then you had a familiar face. And Chris, I was going to ask you, now this is completely somewhat off track. Was you like lusting over the young lady that was in this scene? Because I remember you mentioning something in the Discord, and I was just like, it came back to me when I was watching. I said, is that sis that Chris was lusting on that was also in Your Honor? I hope that's not nobody's Link of Thrones. But
I wasn't lusting, but she was cute. She's cute.
I was wondering if there was. I thought there was. I was gonna research. Yeah. I ain't look her up. I ain't,
Yeah.
So no, and even if it was my Link of Thrones, I can still come out the woo wop with that.
Yeah, she's not my Link of Thrones, but nah, I did think she was cute
though. But of course, when you get your idea, you got to present this idea because they want I guess it's financial backing. That's what the NAACP was going to be doing, giving them money for this idea.
I think backing and just all sort of support, and I think also like kind of validation, like having like their name behind it. So I think just like everything that goes into it. So financial backing, support, whatever that was like, just kind of everything.
Right. And then of course they presented to the NAACP. They pretty much, Medgar Evers is behind it. He likes the idea. Elias is in the room. He kind of shits on the idea publicly, which I didn't understand this tactic. They kind of talk about it later in the restroom in the next scene. But what did y'all think of it? What did y'all understand this to be? Because I don't understand being able to shit on an idea unless it was, and I guess it felt different because if he was in the room with them, it would have been him shitting on the idea or more so trying to create a better idea. But what did y'all take from this?
Mainly just being a follower. That's how I took it, and just kind of being scared to speak his mind. And I feel like Rustin kind of alluded to that in the bathroom. But I did
Mm.
think it was a little bit odd that like the energy was just totally different and like that. And I think he would have just been better not saying anything at all. So maybe he just didn't want to contradict the NAACP, maybe. But yeah, I was thought that was just like a little bit fake actually to switch up. It was like that thing to like if I'm like I don't know somebody's criticizing Jazz and I don't say anything and then I come through the back door and be like, oh yeah, I had your back, but did you really? You know, like did you? So, I don't know. So I was that kind of like I don't know. I thought it was a little fake.
Yeah, I thought he probably saw a new posting or flyer that there's a new seat in the top 10 for the NAACP, and he said, "Oh, I got to get that seat. Let me shit on this idea because I know Chris Rock's character ain't trying to go with it, so I need to make sure I help discount this so I can possibly be taken more serious." Because I don't remember him actually at the table after this scene. He always seemed to be kind of in the background, but that could have just been a coincidence. I don't know.
What was his exact role? Like I know he was a pastor, but what was his contribution?
I mean, I think that was it. He was next in
Okay.
line for like a huge church with a huge
Okay.
following.
That makes
So
sense.
they were looking for they were just getting big like the big wigs, the big heads in different areas, and they
Gotcha.
just had them there so they could whenever they push them or go forward. That's who's next. So that's who following. Or that's who we going behind or going with. And of course, the Elias Rustin situation, like I said, he is a fictional character, but this relationship or romance, it was an interesting thing, and I do love. Chris, we just talked about it per usual. You two niggas I probably talk to the most. But we was talking about who was it? Who was it? It was a complicated but I can't think of what it is. But I know it was about making a character complicated because oftentimes
Insecure?
I don't think it was Insecure.
Was it Insecure? Okay. Okay.
Are you talking about the villain versus the protagonist in movies?
I don't think that was
you and
in
me
it.
talked about that, Jazz.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I mean, it was. I think it was on Facebook. I think it was on Twitter. But whatever it was,
Okay.
it was about making characters complicated because it wasn't. While Rustin, I do feel he had a. I can't say he had a good moral compass just based on the things that he was doing and the life how he was living. Not necessarily his sexual preference. That's his preference. But him dealing with a married man of the church, I do like he did call him out on it because he was asking him because I think the great thing about him was he lived his truth. No matter what it was his truth, it was his story, he lived it. And how he said, I think that the thing that me and Martin had was at any point we could be open with each other. And that's what he respects. He said, we can be open. I can say anything. And that's what Martin does when he gets up and he speaks to people. He says how he feels and he's open and he's transparent when it comes to it. And, he came to, Elias and he said, what makes you a man? How can you be a man of the church? I mean, how be a man of a church and not be man of the church? He didn't say not be open, but
What did he say? It was something about being true to yourself. He was telling people to be. Essentially, he was telling him, how can you tell other people to be true to themselves, but you hide who you are? It's kind
yeah,
of
exactly. Yeah, hiding who you are, and how can you be a husband and not asking about his wife? Basically, how you love your wife, and you don't really even love yourself. How can you be open to that? So, like I said, he was asking those tough questions. Jazz, what did you think of this relationship?
If I was the wife, Rustin knees would have been gone. Like even back then, you're out of here.
You man, oh my god! I'm gonna speak after. I'm gonna speak.
Like
after.
that's crazy to me. Like, but he was out here. Like when Elias wasn't there, he called up Tom, and Tom knew because when Tom first saw him with Elias, he was just like, "Be careful." He said, "You're not about to be Miss Rustin. Now go do the work that I need you to do, bitch." He said, "So."
Yeah.
And Tom did it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. But yo, why would you have been mad at went after
Wait.
Rustin and not the husband?
Both of them, both legs getting up out of here.
Okay,
But I'm going after Rustin first.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
I'm going after Rustin.
Okay.
Right. All legs go.
I ain't mad about that. And Jason, something you said about his moral compass, I didn't really think about it at the time that like he was being kind of shitty, just because I was more so focused on Elias, because like one, he was the one cheating, and like two, he's also like the man of God that's cheating. So I was more so thinking about him. I mean, I didn't really think about that. Like he was like, so do you think that Rustin should have been like, nah? Well, I guess he should have been like, nah, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you think he should have declined?
I do think that. I do think that. Like I do feel. I mean, oftentimes when you're dealing with people and you're in those type of situations, they often say, it's not my place to judge. I'm just doing, But I do think. And that's something I have to work on myself. So that's not me coming out saying, "Hey, because I'm not the person of the highest of, I can be the hypocrite. I can be the one that goes through this, that does the complete opposite thing if the situation is, if the shoe is on my foot." But I do think somebody of those high morals, they wouldn't even involve themselves in that situation, because I don't know what it was about him what it was about Elias to him that drew him to him, but he had Tom, but clearly Tom wasn't getting it done, or whatever. I don't know what it was about Tom, and oh my God, I just felt so bad for my guy.
I do too.
He finally broke it off when he was just like you, clearly he cannot give you himself the way that I can, and that is still that's still who you choose to give yourself to. And he told him, you may say you can conveniently wait, until my feelings are inconvenient to you, then I'm just no good to you no more. And it was just like, ooh, he told me, I just don't like it's a white man saying this.
yeah, he was spitting. He was spitting though.
Jason was fighting the movie. He said, "Why y'all give this white man such a great script?" But I do have a question for y'all. As Jason, you were saying all of that, I had a question.
Acting.
He was. Shout out to Tom. So you said his moral compass, you would have said no. So let me ask you this. You meet a woman, she is a pastor at a church. She is married. Teyonah Parris. Are you saying no if she wants to begin a relationship with you? Huh?
Are they going through a divorce?
No.
I can't do it. I'm not. 10 years ago, I was jumping. I'm jumping.
So today,
how she would have said, "How high, nigga?" I'm in that jump flying. I would have been flying.
So today, you would say no.
I wouldn't. I couldn't do that.
Okay, Chris. Same situation, different actress. Sydney Sweeney.
We can stick with Teyonah Parris.
No. It's
we can
my example. Chris,
okay, Jazz. Here you go. Okay, Sydney Sweeney. You had to give me the white woman, but okay. That's crazy that you're doing that to me. That's crazy. But okay, since we're gonna go with it though,
I don't know any black actresses that you've lust over like Jason lusts over Teyonah.
I told you Teyonah Parris when we were talking about her for Storm.
But I gotta pick somebody else. That's like crazy. It can't be the same actress.
He like Nicole. He like Nicole Bahari as well.
Yeah.
Okay, then her. Actually, fuck all that. I really want you to answer the Sydney Sweeney. Then we can go to her. That's why he's trying to get somebody else, because he knows he's gonna say yes.
This is why I be saying you a villain sometimes. What you doing right now? This is why we go all this most of the time. You a villain, but we'll go with it. If Sydney Sweeney was a married pastor, I would like to think I would say no. Like I would, because it's easy. Like I know the right thing to do is to say no. I know that's the right thing, but like when it's like in front of you and you got like, is she there? Then it's different. But I'm gonna say no, but there's a 20% chance I might fold.
Whew, man, I get it. Jazz, what about you? Since we here, sister, it's more likely that Trayvonte would be a pastor somewhere down in Deacon, Georgia, and he's in line for the big church. He's in line for the big church, like the church as big as on Hump for Jesus. But he, his scandal not isn't that you are the scandal in that moment? Would you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You would do it? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Man, fuck off. Yo, what? That man is delicious. Like, I'm sorry, sis. I'm sorry. I hope you don't find out.
So not Javante, because like I know you gonna vote for him. What if it was like Aldous Hodge?
Who?
Aldous Hodge. That's how you say it, right? Aldous Hodge? Yeah,
Yes.
buddy who was in Invisible Man and One Night in Miami.
And he
Nah.
was Hawkman, whatever.
Yeah.
Nah, I wouldn't. Nah, I wouldn't
You
vote
wouldn't?
for that.
Oh, you don't really like he ain't really like he don't do it for you?
Nah.
Okay. But are you saying no because he just don't do it for you, or no because it's the right thing to do?
Because he don't do it for her.
Yeah. Nah, he look good, but like, nah. I just don't see him like that. Like, I see him as like he could be like a cousin. I don't know why I see him as family and not somebody to lust over.
She said I see him as family.
That's
Really?
so crazy.
Because Javante and him kind of, they don't look that
Nah,
much.
they don't look nothing alike.
I mean, they don't look alike.
Like,
They don't. No.
What is you doing?
If
Do you see this?
I'm saying if they said they were cousins, you would be like, nah. You would say no. You wouldn't see it at all.
I wouldn't.
Really? Okay. I guess maybe because I got cousins who I look nothing alike. So maybe that's not really a good example then, because I got cousins who don't look nothing like me at all. Never mind there. I just don't think that they look like totally different. The same way how like Travis Scott and A$AP Rocky don't look alike, but kinda like are like same features. That's kind of how I see them.
I get it, but I can see how I can see how one woman would like Rocky and one woman would like Travis. And
Yeah,
one of
for sure.
them probably be black, one of them probably be white. There's a difference between them two.
They don't look alike. Don't get me wrong. I can definitely.
I feel I get what you're saying, but I definitely can see why it would be a different caliber of woman on both sides. I don't think the same woman, different caliber, different.
I feel you.
Type. But yeah, it's some situations I just wouldn't, and that's one. Especially like it's more so because of the marriage. If it was a boyfriend,
So it's not that she's a preacher? It has nothing to do with the church?
No.
It's more about marriage. Yeah, marriage, like
it's
her being a preacher.
Marriage, not the church, because I can involve with just her being in the church. I'd be in church then. I'd be the first, the first man or whatever they would be. But now if it's the marriage part that'll do it for me.
Yeah, I'm with Jason on that, because marriage, I feel like you playing with God. And I guess as a preacher you are too, but the marriage, I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing. But the marriage really do feel like you're playing with God though, for real, Like and also like dealing with a married woman, like the married man, like he might, and I guess a boyfriend could do that too, but a husband, like he really might react like really, really violently, like you playing with fire if you mess with someone's wife.
Yeah, but she does know, and she finds out about the situation, which is why Jazz says she'll take their knees out, which I don't blame her in that, but and that just goes to women, man. I don't know how I would have been reacting, like if she was just like, she just basically told him, we need to let him go. My dad if he'd give him the church, so now we got other things to do. And Rustin, he was on bended knee, Jazz.
Don't do that.
He was on bended knee out in the forest.
Listen.
He was doing the bending.
Yeah.
He was in the forest asking him not to give it up. Well, I got it, but this is like real super catch-22. Cause one, I feel like he was doing it for selfish reasons. He wasn't doing it to help him. Like he wasn't doing it because had he been just a friend, had it just been like a friend coming to a friend, hey, you're sacrificing yourself to do something that's not going to make you happy, I would have felt completely different. But because it was more for a Rustin wanted him to be with him type of moment. So that's why I felt it was wrong in how he went about that.
See, Jason, I thought the exact opposite. I don't think Rustin was in love with Elias. I think that he was just like, I didn't get that at all. I think that they clicked, but I didn't get love. And I actually thought that like he was trying to like get him to free himself, because I think that Rustin he was confident and he was able to do the great things that he did because he was who he is. And I think that he knew that him, Elias, inhibiting himself, he would never be able to accomplish everything that he wanted to accomplish. So I think he was talking to him as a friend. I don't think it was like break up with him. And I could be off basis, but I think that because I hear gay people saying that like when they are in the closet, they're not like their whole life is a lie and they're not the person they want to be. And I think that Rustin saw that in Elias and knew that he was never going to live the life that he wanted, never want to get the happiness, whether that was with him or not. Because even Rustin said like that he would find love when the work was done. So, and I think that applied for Elias too. So I never saw love. I think it was maybe lust and like some like, companionship or what have you. But I ain't see that.
What about you, Jazz, before I answer, retort this?
Nah, y'all got it.
And so the reason I think it was is when Tom walked in on them in the house, like Elias was like really putting it out there. Like Elias was he went from the moment that the police broke into that bar with all the men was inside of it to being afraid to running off to I don't want to run away. I don't want to be afraid. I want to be this. I want to be able to be this person, to showing up to the job, to him showing him off to the people, within his, the party that he was involved with, to, Tom seeing it and him in there playing music and singing to Elias. And, him saying, because now when he went back, that conversation he had with Tom happened after the conversation he had with Elias. And I feel like at that point it was like I can see it on both sides. Like maybe he wasn't in love with him and it was just like I don't know if he was just passing time, but to me it seemed like he was falling for him. Like just based on the type of conversations and the different conversations they was having, but every conversation was like I'm walking you through the steps of coming out of the closet, or being able to embrace who you are. Within that, like if within the conversation, had I heard something that would have triggered, like whether it was with me or not, I could see that, but the conversation, it didn't feel like that to me. I don't, it felt like, you can do this. And like, if that's what you chose, then I guess that's what you choose. But I feel like he was doing it for himself. And then after that didn't work, he told Tom, "Nah, we gotta be work people that I can't right now. I can't do this."
I can see that. Why do you think, question for both of y'all, why do you think that they included Elias's character?
I feel like I feel like it drew inspiration from a real situation.
Okay.
But it also showed you black men. It also gives you the stigma of how black gay men are treated back during that time. Ultimately, what they got passed was civil rights, and that was for oftentimes, I don't know if we really say it out loud what civil rights was for. I think if you was to go and ask 10 people on the street, I think everybody would give you a different answer. And there's one answer. It's literally in what Civil Rights Act was. It was, for the race, religion, nationality, your sex, your orientation. Like, I don't feel like if you were to speak to somebody, they would say gay rights is something of civil rights. I don't think that would be a thing. So them being able to, talk about what the Civil Rights Act is, but also show you a black gay man who was proud to be a gay man during this time, how they navigated through it, being black and gay. He's getting it on both sides of it, whether it's gay in the black neighborhood or black household, how they're talking about him, but then dealing with being gay and then dealing with white people on the other side. Because again, they literally threatened to out him and Martin to white print. You know what I mean? Like that's putting it in front of, presidential people like that. So just being able, that's my long-winded answer.
No, that was a good answer. That's nah. What about you, Jazz? Why do you? Because I was wondering that and I think that maybe he was a what's it called, a composite character. I think when you draw from multiple people. But Jazz,
I can see that too.
Jason didn't leave anything on
no crumbs.
The plate. I'm just sitting here like, damn. I forgot what the question was, but I'm sure it was somewhere mixed in with everything Jason said. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was like I said, but it also, like I said, having those official leaders, those official leaders that have complex background, I do feel like that does make up for a better person. Because that's what it was, Michael Jackson, Chris. We was talking about the Michael Jackson biopic, and we were saying because within it they said they're aggressively, knocking down the rumors. The kid assault allegations.
Mm-hmm.
So when you, like I said, kind of like what you said, when you start to skim over or you skip over real life situations, real life scenarios, things that have affected, changed, whether it was a career, somebody's life, or something that got played out, it's kind of it not to say it goes against the legacy, but it taints it to me, because it's like, dang, you're just looking at this from one lens. You don't care about how everything, because all of this is the makeup of said person.
Facts.
The good, the bad, the ugly, all of these different.
Yeah, and Jazz, and that's what I was when we were talking about the biopic. I don't think, unless you're just telling the story about up into the 80s, you can't have a full Michael Jackson biopic without talking about the allegations. Like if you skim that over, like I mean that's just I completely agree, Jason. You got to tell the full story, good, bad, ugly, boring, all of it. That's why it's kind of hard to boil it all in, but you got to include the allegations. To exclude that would be kind of wild, in my opinion.
So do you think that they're going to spend much time on that?
I think as much time as his, how can I put it?
I guess, sorry to cut you off.
No,
I guess, do you actually, you think you're going to get the ugly side of that from this new movie?
I define ugly. What do you mean?
Yeah, I was going to ask, what does ugly mean?
To where it's raw, to where it's just like, okay, this obviously wasn't put through the, I guess, created to be something soft, when obviously it's a hard truth and hard conversations. So like I would say what you saw in Ray, that was raw in my opinion, because you saw the ugliness, the bad, positive, the negatives of everything that he was going through.
I think I think we're gonna see how that impacted him. And that's more so what I'm curious to see, because we were having that conversation.
Right.
Like we've never seen like how those allegations impacted Michael. I'm sure there are stories like he has family members that he confided in, and he was like, "This is fucking with me." That's the story that I want to hear. Not necessarily just about that, but just how that impacted him. If we're only gonna talk about Motown 25, Bill moonwalking, like Jazz, you were saying, we've seen that, but the things we haven't seen is how those allegations impacted him, and that, in a way, I'm not going to say it defined his life, but it was a huge component. So you have to include that in the biopic, and so it's talking about the ugly side. I'm sure that really bothered him, especially, well, obviously it bothered him, but I think we're going to see on how that impacted him.
So if you get about 5 minutes of coverage on that.
Nah, okay, so I didn't answer your question about, I think they're going to allocate it based on, kind of hard to put it percentages, but just how, though I think he went to trial in 93, and then he had the second one in 05. So, however much time, it just warrants it. So I can't give a breakdown, but I'm just imagining if 12 years of my life is me dealing with some of the worst allegations that you can have, that's a big part of your life. So I think it needs to be a big theme of the movie, not what the movie is about, but it needs to be a major thing. But I think it'll make sense though. Same thing with Ray, with his infidelities, that wasn't the movie. But in talking about his heroin addiction, we left the movie knowing that Ray was more than a heroin addict, but you knew he was a heroin addict. I think they're gonna do the same thing with Michael. He
had some faults. He had some drugs. But yeah, when it comes to Michael, I forgot the previous movie ends before all the real things happen. Yep. So it'll be kind of disheartening if they go away from that. And I don't know. Go ahead.
What previous movie?
The mini series, mini story
with Flex.
Hell, we know Jazz.
We don't acknowledge that. We don't acknowledge that, Jazz. You bogus for even bringing that up. You bogus. I don't even know that movie is real.
I've never seen it. I've seen the clips online, but I've never watched it. That's some bullshit. But the previous movie, now I'm going off the previous miniseries. So them being able to bring up the court trial, them bringing up like Chris said, who is he confiding in? When it came to those different stories or those different things, because during that time, that's like when he was his. Michael Jackson will always be Michael Jackson, but it wasn't 80s Michael Jackson wasn't 90s Michael Jackson.
I know what you mean.
So you know, I mean, it's like it's almost like it's disrespectful in a way, but for people today, it's like Lil Wayne Carter 3 versus Lil Wayne Carter 4. It's like once you become the biggest or the largest thing, the only person you're battling is yourself. Yeah. At that point, like, and it looks like people. So you look at the difference in, Michael Jackson in the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s. So I don't even know. I'm just thinking of like, does it end when he passed away? Does it end at that Jackson 5 reunion tour where they bring everybody back together and they brought like every celebrity that's ever been that's well known today was on the up and rise, from Destiny's Child to Usher to Chris Tucker, just those different people when he dropped the Butterfly soundtrack. Like, do we get to that part of it? So it'll be interesting to see, but they can't. They gotta make sure they bring those flaws up, and it can't just be Coleman, Domingo as Joe Jackson flaws, because Michael Jackson got them as well, or even just how those moments that how his father affected him, for how his father's infidelity affected him. So all those things, like I said, all those are genetic makeup of a person. So I do appreciate them being able to do that within this story. Like, you do give us that complex person. Like, for the most part, it's like they live their truth. They live it and they do it, but you do see some of the things that they don't do so well in. You can't be great at it. You can try to be great at everything, but something's gonna be diminishing unless you're working towards that. So, but back into the movie. Coleman, Rustin, whatever. I don't know where he was working at, but he was in the office. And this is when Martin got his march together in Alabama, and they got sprayed, as you mentioned, they got sprayed with the water hoses. And of course, per usual, which I feel like I've seen a situation. You hear this now, and like, he should have just stopped. He should have just not said nothing. He should have just. That's what people say today. And this, they try to blame Martin for getting the kids sprayed and the dogs sicked on them, and he blamed them, and he kind of called him out for his prejudice, in that moment. And of course, the boss, he spoke up, which is the same exact moment, the same exact thing he told him. Everything could have been applied to him. When he told him, you're only homosexual to get back at your parents for leaving you. And I was just like, nigga, what?
Came out of nowhere. Like,
crazy.
You been waiting to say that? Yo, you what?
Yeah, that's wild. But honestly, white people have audacity today. This is what, 1963? 60 years ago, they probably were getting away with anything. They were getting away with anything. But that was a wild thing to say.
Out loud. Like, you think of it's out loud, which is kind of crazy, because he said this, and I was looking at Jared Carmichael. I don't know if y'all familiar with the comedian. He has a reality show coming out. I saw
a clip.
Yeah. He's sucking toes, and he's living, like I said, he's living his truth. I don't know what demographic this is, who this is for. The other Barry mentioned this as well. I don't know who it's for, who's going to watch it, but he's also someone who's living in his truth. And you can see in the trailer, his mother is trying to pray the gay away. I don't know how much is being written as far as we doing this, or like, how did it? Because like, at what point because he had already announced that he was this. He had a special about how his mama felt about it, and it's like, so that when you told her that you bring a camera to this moment to like make it candid, and like, it's almost like it's to a point of, I want people to be able to be themselves, but I want them to be themselves as authentic as it can be. And it's like everything now is like, I need to capture this moment so people can experience it with me. And it's like, every moment isn't for everybody to experience. But that's.
So you're saying it just feels, what he doing feels inauthentic?
Yeah.
Contrived? That's kind of what I got from it too. Because I'm like, if I have this big life-changing moment, I'm not bringing a camera. That feels kind of when I see, and that's I don't know, maybe it's an age thing because I don't know if I'm having a serious conversation, I'm not setting a tripod up, I'm not taking a picture, I'm not
But
recording.
he's older than us, so it's like,
I don't know.
you know what I mean?
I don't know, but I feel what you're saying, and I had the same questions. Barry Wayne gave like an explanation on like who it could be for. Maybe I might be someone else may have said that, but they were just saying that he doesn't know who it's for, but it's for someone. They gave an explanation. That wasn't Barry who said that. That wasn't him, but I'm with him. I don't know who that's for.
Yeah, I don't either. Him sucking a white man's toes was crazy.
That's wild. That's wild.
But
it's like Shorty and talk to me.
she was
but she was at least possessed, you know, so she had an excuse. But he doing that like off his own free will. That is kind of wild.
Can you imagine him doing that, and then he like, all right, click record, and then he just stop, and he be like, damn, we got to get it again. He just still got it.
But today, people, and not to like detract the conversation, but like kind of what you were saying, Jason, about like setting the tripod up, it might not be an age thing, but like I think just the climate today that like any publicity, you know, anything that you can do to kind of like curate content, like everyone wants to make everything content. And I don't want to sound like I'm like too preachy or anything, but just I don't think everything is meant for everyone, like you said, but I just think that like with TikTok, with just like the world today, I think people just want things to be just make everything out of content. And even if you gotta like force something to make it. So I think that might be what it is, that he's just trying to like just making things for people who just want to see that kind of like forced, in my opinion, content. So yeah.
All right, yeah. So of course within that situation, this sparked Rustin to leave the company, whoever he was working with, he quit. In this moment, you know, he went to speak to Miss Baker. And she kind of, because he's so private, you know, she's trying to pry a little bit, trying to see what he has going on. She's heard about Elias, you know, in this moment, but she also knows about Tom at this moment. Which, of course, doesn't mean people are just whispering. You know, people talking in the background about what's going on, what's happening. And she telling them, you know, your movement is good, but with Martin, it would be fire. Did y'all read that movie?
Yo, when I heard that line, I said, wait, hold on, y'all. But y'all fired? Like, what year was it? I said, all right. So somebody let that line pass, and it was like, let's see if anybody catch it. Because I was every time.
You don't think they were saying fire back in the
Jason, can you imagine like Malcolm X? Like, look, these guns about to be on fire. Like, no, they wasn't saying that shit back then. No.
Why not? When the first thing you heard somebody say nigga? What do you think? What was the first thing you think somebody said?
Ooh, like without just the A? I mean, like 1970s.
No.
You think earlier?
Martin Luther King was calling people nigga.
You think he the one that's cut it off?
I'm not saying I know. That's what I'm saying. I think they were saying nigga for a minute.
Yeah, I think it's probably been a minute. It's hard to pinpoint when, because they was already saying it in movies in the 70s, so they had to been saying it before.
They had the A on there in the 70s.
Yeah. Now, caption is spelled. The caption is spelled a little bit different.
Yeah.
But they were saying it. I feel like we have always just had, like, not gonna say a twang, but a way we say stuff. We've always just it's always been a lazy A. It's just been a lazy A, not the ER. I feel like.
I used to,
because I couldn't imagine being, hey nigger.
Yeah, that don't hit it all.
It don't.
So he got with he went to get back with Martin, which he, like I said, they do a super dope flashback. Like I said, some flashbacks. I'm not a fan of flashbacks. I really hate flashbacks, but sometimes they can be done well.
Is it because this was a black and white flashback?
No, I just like how they did it. Some of them don't really tell a story. They don't really do nothing. It's just like, it's here. This one he kind of told the story. He talked to Blythe when he was in the room, and he told him how he got his tooth knocked out. He said, "Don't hit me on this side, hit me on the other side if you don't hit me." So it matches. So we finally get the story. He steps on the bus and I don't know if this was the last time he got into a bus, but it's like, to me, it's like this is a situation that shows the trauma that he has of getting on buses and what it brings and what it does. And we know, we got the Rosa Parks situation. Now people are putting this, I don't know her name, but this the new lady. Well, she's not new, but the other lady, they're putting it out there trying to say, and it's like I don't, and I hate that because it's like, man, more than one people, civil rights it wasn't just in one spot, it wasn't just in one place. All these injustices was happening wherever a Black person laid their head. Everybody was going through a different thing, so there's going to be different people that did do different things, different moments. Unfortunately, some movements are louder than others, but that's not an erasure of another one. If you know about it, hey, did y'all know that there was a moment like this before? Teach us about that instead of this woman stole. So I hate when people or when kids do stuff like that, and it's really more so people that don't it's like somebody like they looking to one up a situation and try to put another situation down or something. It's, but let me see. Oh, so he gets on the bus. We find out how he get his tooth knocked out, how he gets beat. When he gets on this bus, and like I said, I like how he steps on, it switches, it flips, and then it flips back, and then he's at Martin's house.
I got a question. That scene on the bus, do you feel like it was necessary for them to drop the word nigger in there? Like when the lady was like, "Don't touch that nigger."
I think so.
It's real because I'm gonna say, one, is real. Two, it makes you quit, like you're questioning it, but for a white person, they need to know, like, this is what y'all, this is how you were. Like it wasn't it wasn't a pretty moment, and it make you feel, whenever I hear it and whenever I see a white person, I just tense up. It's like, especially when it's in the movie, it's like, damn, why you gotta, but that's how they are. And then I almost felt like she had instant regret once she started seeing it. But now that wasn't a thing of all of them, because some of them laughing, like you said, picnics, jazz, we love to throw it out there. They out there at these different moments, and they just sitting there and they laughing and having a good old time, kicking it, and killing, hurting, murdering, Black people.
Yeah, if it's a period piece, like I know, like I listen to other podcasts, and especially like I know y'all talked about Quentin Tarantino. I think he's OD. Like at this point, I think he just might be racist. There was a time where I was like, I kind of was like, just because I like the movies, but now I'm older. Like I think he just like, I think it's a kink. Actually, I think he just really likes to say nigger. Stephen King is someone else that's been criticized for like saying the N-word. But if it's a period piece, then I feel like I'm not mad if they saying nigger in there, like in this way, because that's how they spoke. I could understand if you got a movie that's set in like 2015, and then you don't necessarily need to say nigger to like show a white person being racist. I can kind of understand that argument, but if you're showing that somebody's racist, like, yeah, they're gonna say nigger, they're gonna use slurs, and and if it makes you uncomfortable, then I think it did its job. And especially like if it's a period piece, then I'm not mad at that. So of course I didn't like it, but I think that it conveyed the message that this is how these people spoke to us.
I ain't mad at that.
Jazz, what did you think about what did you think about Rustin and Coretta and the kids, this scene?
I love this scene. It was so wholesome because at the beginning of the movie, Martin and Rustin was talking. And he was like, how are the kids? How are Coretta and all of that? And they just like, they can't wait to see their uncle fired. And so just to see them together, them singing in the kitchen and everything, it was really wholesome. It really was. And it showed his closeness with the family. Like they had a brotherhood, a connection, everything that was outside of the politics and protests and all of that. Like they were genuinely friends. And so I enjoyed that scene. I was like, all right. So Coretta out here singing. She had a beautiful voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I didn't know she needed to drop an album. You think Jonathan Majors be adding that to his like Coretta and make sure she can sing too? Probably not.
But Martin and Rustin, they finally sit down. and have this meeting of the men meeting, where they apologize, based on what was going on. And Martin told her, I always felt he was a little crazy, and clearly I was wrong about the little part of that. So I appreciated that. But then them coming together, seeing what they were going to do, and how they went, how they went about it. But then, after whenever that conversation, Martin had the little speech on TV, and then this is where they're finally, getting everybody on board with the moment. And you see how, the NAACP, reacts, or how, within that. Chris, what did you think about, them, I get Martin and Rustin being able to mobilize without the NAACP?
Well, I think that they kind of alluded to it early in the movie. They were saying that if they got Martin, they needed Martin on board. So I kind of got the sense that like almost like there was like the NAACP on one hand and Martin on the other, and that you were good as long as you got one of the two.
Yeah.
That if you got both, then you good. But like you needed at least one. And I think that's why it was such a big deal for them to that the NAACP was pushing back. But I think that once Martin gave his sign of approval, that they were good. And also kind of why the part of the reason why the NAACP went ahead and supported them. Correct me if I'm wrong, I got that messed up. But once Martin was on board, then the NAACP was like, okay, if Martin's with it, then we'll find a way too. Did I misunderstand that?
No, you're right.
You got it right, because they were saying how many different. Basically, it's kind of like today. We got so many different people doing so many different things, and instead of finding a bridge to connect it, they're just arguing for their point and their point only. It's like they're not seeing it from the different ways of just being able to have the different types of Black people or different factions being able to come together for one overall or overstanding message.
Which it seemed kind of petty then.
Yes.
It was super petty.
Yeah, because at that point, because at first, like it seemed like, and I knew, of course, it was because he was gay, but also, and this was something I wanted to look into, but I didn't have the time. I wonder if there was like other issues that they had with Rustin, or if it was just because he was gay. Like I don't, because if it was just because it was gay, then I mean, that's obviously, that's petty too. But it seemed like there was like some other beef because like he was coming at him hard. I forgot Chris Rock's character's name. Wilkes, is that his name?
Roy Wilkes.
Yeah, he was coming at Rustin kind of hard, and it seemed like it was some real beef, and the fact that like he was like kind of presenting it as if it was like a logistical issue, which we knew was personal, but then as soon as Martin got on board, then like he flipped, he switched up. So I was like, okay, this is kind of petty and this is kind of fake. That was like what I was thinking while watching it.
I think the fact that Rustin had that confidence and he was actually able to make results, Chris Rock character hated that.
So you think it was jealousy?
Yes, he was a fucking hater for real. That's like he was hating from the sidelines the whole time. Him and Powell, they was just hating. And so they hated the connection that him and Martin had.
Okay. So you think it was truly like not just him being gay, you think it was like that jealousy?
Right. I think it was probably a mix of everything.
Gotcha.
Like all of that.
I think all of it.
Yeah.
I think all of it played a part in there. But when he finally got Martin on board, and they had that meeting with the NAACP, and Powell showed up to the meeting. I was looking, he was like the first person to kind of shake Rustin. He brings up the Pasadena, and did they ever really go into what happened in Pasadena?
They allude to it. I kind of pieced it together, but then I looked it up to see exactly what happened. Do you know what happened?
Nah.
Jazz, you want to say?
No, you got it, Chris.
But pretty much, so when he was in California in '53, he had solicited two men for sex. So he was like, I don't know if they were prostitutes. I guess they must have been prostitutes. Well, I don't know if they were prostitutes or they were just having like a threesome. I don't know, but they were being like having gay sex acts was a crime. So I think it was Jazz, man. Jazz, man.
My bad.
Nah, you cool. But yeah, so he got arrested essentially for he was trying to have sex with two dudes. So that's what he was talking about with Pasadena.
So they kept being a flashback that was going on, like he was being sexually assaulted. So is that what really happened in Pasadena? Because that's what I was getting. Because whenever he brought that up, his mind kept flashing to I didn't know if it was that moment or a moment, but it was him looked like he was chained or locked down to something, and he was being sexually assaulted. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpreted that flashback at that moment. Because whenever he said that, he didn't speak again. He was just like, typically every time he gets off, he come back with some kind of witty remark. But when he said, he was like, he did the he did the David Rubber. He was like the Pasadena. What?
Yeah,
I remember, but it was something. I'm gonna get back to it. And then he just started. It was just like just like a little tidbit he dropped. Like, you need to shut the fuck up, because now I'm finna get into what's really going on.
I didn't think it was a sexual assault, because looking up the charge, it was, unless there's details that like that I didn't see, but I think they were just aggressive. I think they were just like, that's how I took it. They were just like, whatever was going on, they were just really aggressive with it. But I don't think it was like a sexual assault. That's not how I took it. And I think that's why because he did he pled guilty. But I think the fact that he was, because if it was a sexual assault, that he could just say, oh nah, like I was a victim, But I think the fact that like he was scared of it, he knew that like he was obviously like trying to have sex with those two dudes, so he was guilty.
And of course, they want Rustin off, the campaign, or they want him off the protest, which they gave it to my guy Glenn Turner. What was it, Turner? It's Turner. That's his name. The Colonel Turner from what I'm talking about, Different World. I don't care if this is your Lincoln-thon. Like, I don't know his name in the goddamn movie. They gave us 100 different black people I ain't never heard of.
I was gonna ask y'all, like, how did y'all feel when we were seeing different people that they had their name and their position show up as well? Like, how did y'all like the movie doing that?
I kind of needed it.
Yeah, it's necessary, because you want to know. Like, I knew who John Lewis was. Like, I've seen him in different, like, in anything that Martin Luther King is involved in, they put him. But they make sure he's in there, which I love that they make sure that's a thing. Because some people, in some stories, you can't tell the story without certain people. So it's dope, they bring it up. So yeah, I enjoyed that, them being able to just show different, because that gives people, if you want to deep dive this story more, you can deep dive into who these different people are, what roles they play, what stories and things, But of course, when they started sprinkling those fictional characters, it kind of goes away from that. But even if you look that up, it'll tell you he's fictional as well. I mean, he's fictional. So
I definitely like with this movie, because like when I saw Medgar Evers at the meetings, because I have some history of him, because his movie is The Ghost of Mississippi. Amazing film. Whoopi Goldberg did a good job in that, but it's basically off of his story. Actually, it's not even his story. It's about the dude that assassinated him. So very good movie. And I thought I was dope, because I didn't realize he was sitting in these meetings with Martin Luther King. So
I don't think I've ever seen that.
it's good.
Just a random story. When I was a kid, for some reason, my parents took me to see that.
The Ghost of Mississippi.
I swear to God, I was like 5, watching that depressing ass movie. For some reason, I don't know why they took me to see that, but I can vividly remember that. I'm like 4 or 5 years old.
Man, I was going, Harriet the Spy, Good Burger.
Not me, not my parents.
I seen Speed. You know what I mean? We see. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they thought a little. Well, your parents a little bit. Your parents probably a little bit older than mine.
They how my mom 62, early 60s, late 50s.
Yeah, they 10 over my parents. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris was in there like learning about civil rights activists. Like, you don't know who this is.
Sad ass movie. And also, like, spoiler for people who ain't seen it. Like, he hadn't got convicted yet when that happened. I don't think it
was like 20 years after he assassinated him.
But like in that movie though, because he did get convicted, but he didn't get convicted in the movie. I think he did. Oh, he did. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because I just remember like watching that movie. I'm like, damn, this is sad, and like feeling like sad as hell.
Yeah, nah, that's tough. That's tough. I remember watching Malcolm X with my granddad, but they wasn't at the movies. You know what I mean?
I can't imagine watching that in theaters. I don't know
why the hell they took me there. Like, I don't
It's so
know.
much trauma on a big
Yeah.
screen. It's crazy.
Yeah, they probably didn't have no one to watch me, and they really wanted to see it. You know, that's probably. But I'm like, damn, they could have just waited a weekend.
But of course, like I said, they put Rustin. They tried to get rid of Rustin, you know, which they gave it to Turnman, whoever his character was. I want to make sure I get that one right. Man, there we go. Oh, Philip Randolph. They made Philip Randolph. Glenn Turman is his real name, but they gave his character the role of, you know, over the March on Washington. He was over the March on Washington, which he made him the director of the March on Washington. So they still ultimately gave him, you know, the position to take it over. You know, of course, they preparing for the march, and they hear the radio broadcast, and they pretty much put what you just said out there for everybody to hear. He turns the radio off, and of course, people start calling in, which I'm assuming it's probably people that backs them, or maybe the news reporters or something, saying, you know, they're out of it, and then, you know, he has this real, I guess, come to Jesus meeting with Martin about what's going on, what's happening. You know, within the moment, he, you know, pretty much tells them, I'm a black man and I am homosexual, so my lifestyle shouldn't have anything to do with, going for civil rights, because justice for all is justice for all. Within that moment, what did y'all think about, you know, this situation or this conversation that they had?
It goes back into their brotherhood, that unfiltered conversation and dialogue that they're able to have, to where they're able to be vulnerable. And so I appreciated how this movie depicted their brotherhood in this. But it's just, again, I'm just like, damn, for somebody to be so close to Martin Luther King and then, of course, have that bond, didn't even know who this man was. I'm like, how many other like dope greats out there who we don't even know about? But yeah.
What you think about the head nigga in the South, Chris?
I thought it was one of the highlights of the movies. Like, I thought it was like really kind of like, if there was like a theme of the movie or one of the themes, it was just that like black people, like they can be that everyone is part of the movement, that you just can't pick and choose. Because really, like, once, I guess, like, and I might be like reading into what he was saying, but like if they're going to exclude Rustin for being gay, you're not that different from white people. You know what I'm saying? That when you start like excluding people, obviously that's not like one of the same, but I think his point was saying that like if you're gonna be tolerant, if you're not gonna discriminate, you have to accept me for all that I am, and even the people that aren't like me. So like you could talk about today, like you could say that somebody's trans. How can I say I care about black people, but then I'm transphobic to somebody who's also black? So that's how I took it. So, you know, that he was just like really just saying that like you gotta accept all of us, not just cherry picking who. So I love this dialogue, and I'm glad that Martin obviously accepted him and that he heard what he was saying.
Yeah, they got some actors. So they got some actors for this one, because it needed to be well acted. There was a lot of black actors I hadn't seen. Some of them I've seen in other things, a bit more impactful. So I'm like, oh shit, is that okay? That's dope. Which of course that's what our Linkathon section is for, being able to just grasp things and just put you onto other actors. But of course, you know, they stand behind Rustin. It brings them to tears, makes them very emotional. Which, you know, they go to Washington, and this is when they try to walk the place that they'll be at, but also see, you know, how the police in their area will help them, or what, you know, how they'll react in this moment. And we see like they're, you know, being cops for the most part, being real dickheads about the situation. You know, they tell him he's yelling and he's being combative, and he's just having a conversation. What do you think about this, Jazz?
It was a bit triggering because Rustin told them who he was and who he was with. When I watched this on my rewatch, I realized, oh, the chief only said what his name was. He didn't say what department he was with. So that's why Rustin asked him. He was like, "Are y'all with like I think the name of the park?" And he was like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, why are you over here?" you tell me what I can and can't do. Like, we doing 2 days. Oh, and then you see he found out that they was talking to Chris Rock's character. Oh, Roy Wilkes said, yeah, 1 day is fine too. He's like, well, you don't work for Roy and I don't work for Roy. So why are we talking about Roy? So it was just the way he was, the energy toward the cop. I'm not gonna lie. I was like he didn't have any kind of fear or anything. He was just talking to them like, and then you just gonna walk off, which was a triggering part because I'm just like, y'all was having a conversation. You didn't answer my questions, and then you sitting up here telling me, no, you're gonna answer mine and I'm not gonna answer yours. So I would say he was very courageous of a character. Because
you gonna say something, Chris?
Yeah, I was gonna say just what you're saying, like Jazz, about him being courageous. I think a lot of people when they hear like, because him and Dr. King were nonviolent, and they think that they were like docile or that they were like cowards. But nah, to talk to the police like that was brave. Now I don't know if that happened in real life, but I'm sure that they probably had. I know they interacted with the police, and that he wasn't turning the other cheek in that situation. Like he wasn't being violent. He didn't obviously wasn't attacking them, but nah, like he checked the cop. Like he told them, like, nah, like, okay, you don't work for him, I don't work for him. What the hell are we talking about him for? And that was a bold thing to say to a cop in 1960. Like, so like I think that a lot of times people think that like Dr. King and other people who were non-violent, that they were not brave and that they were cowards just because they weren't saying like to go and shoot white people. But they were brave. Like they were having protests in the South. Like it's one of the scariest things you can do. And I think that this moment watching that, like him to check a cop, and he was by himself. Of course it was daylight, but that don't matter. So I think that really spoke to how brave Rustin was, how articulate he was, and how confident that he was to say that I don't care that who you saying what you've been told. This is what we gonna do, and you just gonna have to deal with it. And also the other cops, he told them other cops that they weren't gonna have guns, and that you gonna have to change the law. So he was checking them. He was telling them, well, this is what we gonna do, and you just got to get with it. So I appreciated that they showed them being like bold and brave, and not like this idea of like these like docile, like just like these cowards. Like they couldn't have been. I think that's actually like really disrespectful that people sometimes think that they were looking back on these people who, because they were nonviolent, that they were cowards. That couldn't have been further from the truth.
Yeah, I see that all the time. People, I'm not my ancestors and things. Like it's very disrespectful. When you go, because we didn't have to deal with what they had to deal with. Like we have our own systemic issues, and we have our own situations, and it's almost like civil war within our own race. But like we have all these things are just repeated parts of history and the things that happens and that goes on. So for you to then shit on your past is just kind of crazy, considering what they had to go through and what they had to do and endure to even get to a space like now, space of today. And it's not to say today is okay, because it's still not. It's still things that we're going through, still things we have to face, and it's just a different plight. But like we said, Jazz, they got together their own police force of black police officers, and they, told them they won't be holding guns, and this is when they brought Blythe back in to check. I'm assuming it was like to put them through a real world, like a real scenario of what it may feel like, and if you're gonna get somebody that's gonna throw some hands in this situation, but also be able to talk to you in a manner that when you get out there, this is what you may feel. This is what it may feel like. This is what it may seem like. Chris, what did you think about when he was going to the cops and getting in their face and in their shit?
Well, they did that in real life. The SCLC, the Southern SNCC, the Southern Christian Leadership Committee or conference, but the people who organized the protest, but they would do these trainings to where, like, let's say that us three are going to be doing a protest, and then I would be like calling you a nigga, I'll be spitting on your face, I'll be smacking you, and like actually doing the things that white people are going to do to you, and just saying that, are you going to respond? So like it was real life, even if that scene may not have actually happened, like that was real. So I'm glad that they put that in, because that's a thing that like people were seeing cops and they would be like, oh, you Uncle Tom, like you doing this, like you doing that. So I think I appreciated that they gave that that things that their own people would have said to them, that they gave them that training. So I think that it made it real.
And it seems like they were able to adapt Because when I watched it on my rewatch, and I was just like, oh, so they be training them, and they still be out here. Oh, you got a gun? Oh no, that's a cell phone. Or somebody walking away, and it's like, I thought that was my taser, but it was like, what? But yeah,
that's crazy.
it's
And the taser gun mixed up. That's crazy.
really crazy.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like when that one thing, Rustin, he was talking to Martin when he was after they tried to, out him or whatever they did on the news. He came back and he was like, why am I having to justify my existence? The easiest way to combat not feeling enough is attack someone we feel is lower than us. And he asked him, they basically asked, are they asking for his resignation? He was like, no. I was born Black and I'm homosexual on the same day. Either they believe in justice for all or they don't. Which of course, it led, Martin, the speeches that Martin was having was amazing. I do think the guy that played Martin did a pretty good job. I was kind of questioning who he looked like. He didn't really look like Martin, but I was like, it might be Martin, but I ain't really, I do think the dude in Selma did, he really looked like him, sound like him.
I was gonna ask y'all how y'all felt about Martin, because I'm gonna be honest. It was giving great value, and I said, "Come on, y'all! I needed better value."
You talk as far as like the look or the acting?
Just the act. Both.
Both, really? See, I like the acting. I thought he don't look.
I was like, he don't look like him.
Yeah, he don't look like.
I think he did a good job with the role.
I thought he did a good job with the dialect. Like, I think that he sounded like him, and I like the acting, but as far as like the look, I mean, I guess more. How many people look like Dr. King though, too?
Look, we seen one recently at a football game.
Did y'all really?
Yeah,
he did. I know who you're talking about. He
yeah,
do
white
look
woman.
like he did. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. That's wild. That's funny.
At first, I thought that's what they was alluding to in the movie. Like they was going to tell about his white woman.
When he said my queen.
Yeah.
Me too, because I said, oh, y'all wrong for that. Come on now, y'all. Don't call that white woman queen. But then I was like, oh, they talking about Rustin.
Yeah, I thought that's about they were going.
Really?
Like, oh, they taking it even a step further. I'm gonna call my child Martin Luther King, the king. But like I said, we get to the March on Washington. Of course, it looked dead. Don't let nobody was out there. I guess they started singing the Tyler Perry songs, "Brought the People to Washington."
Don't you give him that credit? Don't you give him that credit?
So like people start following it. I'm against they was on color people time. I don't know what was going on. They had Rustin had already had to sacrifice the one day. So then getting everybody there on that next day, just that one day, it was just like, dang.
I mean, I guess you think about it this way: like, you got a major protest, and it be violence. You got to be like, let the first hour go by, make sure nobody do nothing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So they get, then you be like, all right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and head out. Traffic in DC, stupid. Imagine 200,000 people, extra people in your city.
That's nuts.
So traffic had to be crazy.
I didn't even think about that. That had to have been a logistical nightmare.
Yeah.
That was the point. Them being able to bring. True. He wanted 100,000.
Yeah.
Right.
He wanted 100,000. They had 80, and then finally, when Chris Rock's character got on board, he had 200,000 that was gonna ride. So they did. They brought, like I said, when you finally put everything together, and we can mobilize together, then you can see the real power of the movement. Together.
When they were going through the list of things that they had already done, like the performances, the different porta-johns, like all of this, when they laid out all of that stuff, and you think about how they were able to get this together within 7 weeks, Like, that's so crazy.
Yeah, that's insane. So they had them people working 12 to 15 hours every day.
Right.
Which, I mean, I don't know if they had jobs or other obligations.
That's what I was about to say. How was they getting money? Like, how would, when you think about stuff like that, like, shit, how are they able to make money? How was Rustin able to make money? Was he getting, because of the funding that they got? I feel like that funding would have just been straight to the cause.
That's what I would think. What were you gonna say, Jazz?
I was gonna say, like, I think, damn, they got a big ass staff, so
yeah.
Bro, they had people everywhere.
And maybe, I mean, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe some people were sleeping in the office.
I mean, I'm thinking that maybe the funding could have like allocated, like giving some people like some pay. Maybe that could have been in there too. Because like that's kind of crazy. You got people working every day, not even if it's like 12 to 15 hours. You got people working every day for free. Like that don't even seem like that's kind of crazy. That's a crazy ask.
But then cost of living was a lot cheaper back then too.
True, but Jazz, you working 2 months for free?
Listen, if it's for Rustin, if it's for the future,
12 to 15 hours. 12 to 15 hours though.
Chris, if it's for the future to where we get equality.
I feel you, but them bills don't stop. Rent don't stop.
But if I'm able to manage, true. I'm struggling a little bit. Like if my struggle is like 23.65, but I'm fighting for a big cause. Yeah, I'm gonna show up.
I mean, if it's just a minor inconvenience, then yeah. Like if it's just a thing of where like I just gotta I can't eat out for a little bit, then I could do that. But I'm just thinking like, and all them people paying their mortgages, or maybe it's one of those things that we just gotta like. I mean, I just gotta suspend your disbelief that they ain't worked for 2 months. But 12 to 15 hours a day, man, that's a lot. That's a lot.
But yeah, but back in the day, the sacrifices that they had that they were willing, like, for greatness, you have to be willing to sacrifice something. Shit, Chris, we literally just talked about that, and it's like, what is it? What is it that you sacrifice in that moment? That's whether it's Martin, him sacrificing the time he has with his kids, whether it's Rustin sacrificing, his personal shit. He was not sacrificing his personal life.
Nah, he wasn't.
So now let me not even put that. So they could be sleeping in that building because it looked, as big as it was, it looked like, what that was. So I couldn't see where, why not. It was big enough for whatever apartment they ended up going to.
And I think they had some funding. Like some of the donors were able to put in, and they were able to use some of that for like their bills and stuff. So
that makes sense. Yeah, I imagine that they would have had some funding. But I got a question for y'all, just because something you mentioned, Wilkes' character, something I did put in the chat. What do y'all think about Chris Rock's portrayal?
Man, I can't take Chris Rock serious in nothing.
I didn't. It was hard for me to see him as Wilkes.
Yeah, I was watching this and I was just thinking Death at a Funeral. And I was just thinking he's about to say a joke.
It didn't feel, I don't know, like the other characters, like Coleman Domingo, he became Rustin. Even the character that became Martin, like I'm not familiar with him, but I saw him as Martin. Even Jeffrey Wright, I didn't even recognize him initially. So I feel like every character was like kind of in their role. Chris Rock felt like Chris Rock. I don't know if it's because like he has like a specific like tone of voice and he didn't change it up. And so it just sounded like Chris Rock the same way he does a special. So the acting wasn't really there for me. That was the one like blemish for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat because it's the way his voice sounds. So whenever he speaks, it just sounds like Chris Rock. And then his comedy specials aren't preachy, but whenever he is talking, it always feels the same exact way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say when I was looking at him, I was just like Chris Rock from Death at a Funeral, and then I'm like, he got smacked by Will. I hate that came to mind.
Is this his first role since getting smacked, or has he done something like a movie since?
Outside his comedy show.
He got smacked in 2022, huh?
That sounds about right.
Then yeah, because he had his comedy show, and then you got this.
Because I don't think he don't do like a lot of movies, unless I'm mistaken. But I don't think he does like a lot. So.
Nah.
Yeah, actually, well, no, he was producing actor. Let's see. He was in Amsterdam.
Really? Was he? Okay. Was that 2023?
That was 2022.
Okay.
Like it dropped after. It dropped after the smack because it was at the end of the year.
Okay.
Right when
it might not
23.
count because he might have already filmed for it before the smack.
What I mean, outside of that, you can't. It's kind of hard to say. He was in Paw Patrol. That dropped last year. I know that was after the smack.
Okay, so he'd be working. Okay, I thought
barely. It's just them.
Barely.
It was Amsterdam, Rustin, and then Paw Patrol.
That's actually not a bad catalog. It's not big, but it's not like a huge catalog, but that's not like a bad body of work.
It's not. It's not, man. But yeah, man, like I said, I didn't know. I didn't know this was free at last. Thank God Almighty. I'm like, oh wait, God, this was what we was getting to. See, this is what I mean by you gonna make me. Even if it's about a moment in time, it was a great way to get there, and the use of flashbacks made sense. But that one, but that was Rustin. Did you guys have any other comments or scenes that you want to go over that we didn't discuss?
I do have a question, actually, about when you mentioned that when Rustin and Martin, when they reconciled, did Martin actually apologize though? Because I watched it. I don't know if he actually said. Did he say like,
yes,
I'm sorry? He did.
It was something along those lines. I don't know if it was like I'm sorry, but I think it was an apology.
I remember he said he missed you, like I missed you as a friend, but I was just watching. I was like, it was never no time that he was like, yeah, I was wrong for that, or I kind of threw you under the bus, or you called my bluff, and then I was like, yeah, with it.
Are you saying Martin Luther King didn't take accountability for his fuck up
in this film? Yes.
Damn, Martin.
I don't know if that's how it went in real life, but I mean, I don't know. Like, if I just throw a friend under the bus or I leave a friend out to dry, which he did, he left his homeboy for a couple years too. Like, I feel like that should have been like, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. So maybe I was looking for like exact like word, or maybe Rustin took that as an apology, and he didn't have to explicitly say it. But I was looking for him to like explicitly say that, yeah, that was fucked up what I did. He's a pastor, so he wouldn't have said that, but that was wrong what I did, and I shouldn't have done that. And I don't think he said that.
He didn't. I mean, no, he didn't. He did. There wasn't. I don't think there was an explicit apology where he said those words verbatim or even got to it. I do feel like it was one of those. So now I think people are more aware in those moments to just be able to say, I'm sorry, if that's who they are, if they're willing to do that. But I feel like it's more one of those, what's understood doesn't have to be explained.
I feel that.
So them going over that comment, because I think Rustin was going more in depth with it, and Martin kind of cut him off within that and brought up, what it was. He was like, I miss you, friend. More so in that moment. So I don't think it was an explicit,
Okay.
When he took his side, when he was on the TV, I felt like that was more of him backing or getting behind him. But I also think it was kind of bold of Rustin to put his 2 weeks notice, put his resignation in and expect Martin to not accept it at the same time.
Yeah, that was bold. And honestly, I think that him saying I miss you, friend, I guess that was the apology. And that was just they understood that. But yeah, he was kind of wilding for putting that resignation in.
Yeah, that was him calling. I'm calling your bluff. Like, why would you?
Would y'all take a "I miss you" friend as an apology?
No. Not
it depends on it depends on what you apologize. It depends on what I think the apology is for. If you disrespected me, then nah, it wouldn't. But like I don't feel like in this moment it was really like a situation of I don't think this situation warrants it, and I'm sorry. That's just me. Because it wasn't like Martin. I feel like it was like a dick swinging match to a certain extent. Rustin played his hand. Martin he expected Martin to do something differently. Now, where the issue would have come from was they didn't talk about it anymore. Like there was no more conversation at that point. So like there wasn't anything to no follow up or anything. Like they just once he didn't accept it, it was just like, all right, I'm going back my way, you going your way.
Do you think?
Oh, go ahead, Jazz. I'm sorry.
Like, if you was Rustin in that moment, would you be like, I'm just playing. I ain't mean to do that. Like, just take it back.
Somebody this past week I had a conversation with somebody that they did that. And went to their job. They put it 2 weeks in because they was getting in trouble. And then she went back and she was like, I said, so you went back to take it back? She was like, no, I wanted to change the dates. No, we're not giving you your 2 weeks notice to give you 2 more weeks. Like, no, I'm not. No, you're out of here. You're out of here. And I told her, but I said at the same time, you're asking me to speak about a different state. We're not even in the same place. I'm in an at-will state. So where I am, they can fire you without cause.
Yep.
So you can put a 2 weeks notice in, that'll be your last day. Like so I don't know how that works in another place. Like, I know y'all also said y'all had a job, I haven't had that. Well, I did, but he tried to play with my time, and I printed my 2 weeks on every computer at the job, so they know I'm leaving. So then it would be a different conversation. But they had me fucked up in that because they wanted to give me the raise, but they wanted me to wait until I'm like, I got too many offers in front of me today to wait for you to make a decision. Like, I've given blood, sweat, years, life, and if that isn't enough, then you obviously don't see my value. Let me go find it elsewhere.
I actually had a homeboy that happened to him where he told his job that he was thinking about quitting, and they was like, "Oh, we'll make that decision for you." And when he told me that happened, I was dying. I'm like, bro, why the fuck would you do that? Like, you go in there when you ready. He was like 50-50, and they was like, oh, bet, because like North Carolina that will. And his ass was unemployed, which is crazy. I ain't go. If he see this, then he'll know. He'll probably know who I'm talking about. But I ain't gonna put his name out there. But also one thing I'm thinking about now that we're talking about it, I don't know if Dr. King did anything wrong to apologize. Like, just now that we're saying it out loud, and I'm thinking about it because like Rustin was like, they said that like him and Rustin were like a couple, and that wasn't true. And I guess they wanted Dr. King to distance himself.
Well, they wanted because he wanted Martin to do the march in LA at the Democratic convention.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came to Rustin, basically to tell Rustin to not do it.
Yeah.
He was like, all right, so if you don't go away from it, we're gonna tell everybody you and Martin was dating, you were dealing with each other. And then he was like, man, that's a bold-faced lie, so I ain't got to worry about that. You know what? Since they want me off of it so bad, I'm going to just put my 2 weeks in, but Martin ain't going to let her do it. It's just to show you how much more he support me versus y'all in this. And it was just like, wow, sometimes, like I said, I get it. Outside looking in, like, if we feel close, you would put them in a situation where they can, but that's a tough situation to put somebody into. Like, well, you need to back me. Like, it's a lie, but like sometimes the perception is bigger than the truth. Like, the perception of a situation, and like ultimately, you would hope somebody would go in and you can back it, try to get out of it. But it's, we know once people believe one thing, that's just what they believe. No matter what you can say, no matter what you do, either you trying to prove that you ain't, and you lying about something. You guys, it's just so much. It was a messy situation.
Yeah.
And I do think that goes into maybe homophobia to a certain extent, or just within the Black community, because if you feel comfortable, you're comfortable no matter what in there. So.
Well, then I'm gonna walk that back then, because like in that situation, then I don't know if Dr. King did anything wrong then. But not, because like Rustin just kind of overswung and he just did something like he shouldn't have done. But kind of like what I was saying before, I don't think that Dr. King was like worried about being accused of being gay. I think it was more so worried about what this would do to the movement. Possibly, I think it would tank the movement. And in that moment, like I think that was bigger than the friendship. And like, so I don't know if he did anything wrong. Now that we're talking about it, I'm gonna step that back. I don't think he necessarily. I mean, he could have been like, I should have supported you, but also Rustin was kind of wilding to be like, I'm gonna put my 2 weeks.
I can see it. I can see it both ways, because I look at it like this. Because now that you're saying that, just imagine if he did. I support Rustin. Worst case scenario, you end up splitting. You split the party. So now you got people over here. Now you're doing hurt towards the party. But I mean, best case scenario, people like now you have more people in support of this situation, of this movement. Like I said, with them being younger people, being more accepting, it helped for them. But like, you're dealing with the older people. That's where the people that's been around for quite some time, they're the ones who, where the money is, where the power is, where the influence is you kind of put this, you can't, well, they talk about more in a biblical sense, but you can't serve two masters. So it's like they kind of made it where you can't do both, where you can serve both. But then you have like the situation, what's hurt, way, 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 way less important because it's fictional, but also it's a different situation. But kind of like with Issa having to pick between picking this big brand and also picking the local talent, the local person, being able to pick which side of which you shouldn't have to play a side. You should be able to be everything you want to be, and all of this is what makes me in this situation. So, but sometimes I do feel like even though it didn't go the way it's supposed to, I think things went the way it's supposed to, because them being able to separate, you can see what each individual brings to the table. And then once we got our table, push your table next to mine, and this now we can take this table to Washington, or we can take our tables to Washington.
But honestly, maybe there's more to that story, because really so did they just never talk again after that resignation, or not talk again for like 3 years?
Man, I've seen less happen for longer.
Wow. Okay. Because that seems like one conversation. Like, what you think, Jazz? Because I mean, I just feel like they could have had like one conversation after that, and they could have like stayed cool. They didn't necessarily have to separate if they talk.
I mean, I guess it's just the level of hurt and betrayal that Rustin probably felt.
Okay.
And when you hurt like that, you get clouded and you don't think about the entire situation that you played your hand and you in a situation where you shouldn't have, and you put Martin in a situation. So he probably was just thinking about his feelings, maybe after the fact. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I think a conversation definitely would have helped. But when you that hurt, do you really want to talk to the person? Nah. Especially feeling that betrayal and all of that. And so now he's like, I got to go find a job because now I'm no longer with the movement, and he just had to adjust. It's crazy that it was 3 years.
Man, it happens. I mean, especially back then, so many different things going on, but he still cared for him. He still thought about him because, the situation of him being sprayed is what even triggered him to even get back into that mode, to get back to him, or get to him. And, Tom called him out for that too. He told him he was scared. And ever since that's been your excuse as to why you can and you're unable to do it. It's like, man, you got to get off your ass and get back to it. Like, that shit over with. Like, that can't be the ending or the deciding factor for us, the movement, what you got going. So, yeah.
No, that was definitely good. And I want to say the character Anna Hedgeman, she was one of the speakers that was in the meetings that they were having, and she kept speaking on how there weren't any female speakers at the event. And so I thought like her character was very important, and she shined a light on how even though you have all this unity, why aren't there any women involved with speaking at one of the largest peaceful protests ever? And then when she came back and followed up saying a woman should have been able to do the introduction, but none want to be involved because of everything that was going on. And so I just thought that exchange and that was very important.
I guess it never addressed that because it never, like, I know Mahalia Jackson sung, but that wasn't a speaking. So I'm assuming they never addressed that really. They just left it, yeah. So it's still, we're dealing with Black, dealing with LGBTQIA, but now we're dealing with women's rights, and they still get neglected, overlooked in that. Well, it appears to be. Right. Because she started listening to different people from Rosa Parks, to different people that should or be able, that should or could speak, and they didn't. But that was the end of Rustin. And of course, the moment or the reason that we're here. Let's see. Was it good though? Chris, I'm gonna start with you since you are a guest, sir.
Oh, I loved it. In terms of biopics, I think that this is how biopics should be made. Like, I think that they should take like a specific time period in someone's life and focus on that instead of trying to tell their whole life. Because I think you can just tell like a better story. Because this is like a really strong story that I guess like took place from like a couple of years. Well, from a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed it. I would give this I like a 4.5 out of 5. I think that was my initial rating, like the
Okay.
first time I watched it. Maybe I think the only critique, like I didn't love Chris Rock, and I would have liked to see, yeah, he did, yeah, he it didn't take away from the movie, but he didn't convince me, and maybe I would have liked to see like just a little bit more backstory on like what specifically their issues are. Jazz, I think you may have hit the nail on the head, like about it being jealousy. And maybe like I'm asking for like too like an over explanation, but it just felt like it was like, is it because he's gay? Is it because like he's close with Martin? Is it because like his charisma? Like what is it? So maybe I would just like to see like why do they have like so much opposition to him? And also because really outside of being gay, they could have had that energy towards Martin too. If it was because like people following him, is it because if it was because he's a great leader, because he's like this big figure, then they should have had that same energy towards Martin, and they didn't. So I would have liked just a little bit more explanation on that. But nah, this is a great biopic. Like Coleman Domingo was phenomenal in this role. Like blew me away.
If you had to replace Chris Rock's character, who would you replace him with?
Ooh, Keith David. Like he could play a villain really well. Yeah, that was just the first person that came to my head. If I really thought about it like more, I might be able to think of like maybe someone better. But because originally, Chris Rock was, I guess, the secondary villain in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
antagonist. But he's someone, or maybe, damn, what's that nigga's name? He always, damn, he be in the black movies, always cheating on his wife. Damn.
Wait, is he black, Chris?
Yeah, he's black. He's black.
And
damn,
black men don't cheat.
Oh, this is fictional. Whoa, this is fictional. We talk about real life black men don't cheat. This is fictional.
Diary of Mad Black Woman, the guy with the what's they brother? He got a brother. Hey, what's the dude that played Ace Boogie? Ace Boogie from Ace Boogie from
Hold on,
Ace Boogie, Cameron, Mekhi Phifer.
No.
Oh, Paid in
his
Full?
brother. His brother though. I think he's talking about his brother.
Hold on, that might be, but it's I can see his not Blair Wash. Hold on, not thinking.
He got a brother.
Like a real life brother.
Yeah, it's the guy from Diary of a Mad Black Woman. That's his brother.
Shamar Moore? No.
Wood Harris brother.
Oh shit! Who was he in A Diary of a Mad Black Woman?
The dad, the dude, the main dude.
Damn.
Wait, what? You talking about Charles?
Is that the one that got through in the pool in the
water?
That's
Charles. Yeah.
That's Wood Harris's brother.
Wait, that's his brother?
Stephen Harris or something like that.
Oh, they look nothing alike.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, Steve Harris. Yeah, is that who you talking about?
No, not him. I think maybe I was thinking of Blair Underwood, but because he be playing a villain sometimes too in movies.
Blair Underwood definitely be playing a villain.
Yeah, that's one. And I feel like I seen a movie where he was like cheating on his wife.
Yeah, it was
like abusing his wife.
The Family That Prays.
Yes, yeah,
no,
yeah.
It wasn't that one. It was Medea's Family Reunion.
It's one of the movies, but he was a villain, and I just remember seeing that. I'm like, yeah, this nigga's like
yeah, because she threw the grits on him.
Hold on,
I like the guy that played Whitney's fiance from Whitney.
A Different World.
A Different World. You know, that's my guy. He could have played Chris Rock role. Hell yeah, he would have been a great villain.
Nah. You talking about Dwayne from A Different World?
Nah, not Dwayne.
Dwayne,
the fiance. Who Dwayne?
Oh shit! You talking about Olivia Pope's father?
Yeah.
I was thinking about our guy that was in he was he's in the new series The Gentleman.
Giancarlo.
Yeah.
Giancarlo.
Oh yeah, he would have been good in it, but he's a
would've been-
phenomenal. That nigga can probably do anything. Like that nigga's a phenomenal actor. So you
He
really
is.
could just put him in wherever. But yeah, he would have been good. Just anyone who could have conveyed like just like a little bit more of just like a shitty person. Chris Rock just didn't nail it for me, respectfully.
Nah.
That wasn't respectful, but I get you.
I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying he just didn't give a good performance. You know, I ain't trying to like play him as a person, but that performance wasn't convincing.
I get it, Jazz. What about you? Was it good though?
Yes. Yes, it was good. I definitely enjoyed this movie, appreciated it, and I love seeing these stories of iconic figures that we don't normally hear about. So
Same for me. It was. I definitely enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed it, considering how I felt, last week. Yeah.
What
So
happened last week?
One Love.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
stop living in the past.
Since we're doing a biopic this week, is there a biopic that you would like to see made?
I'm gonna say I'm gonna kind of cheat because this was supposed to be made, but it got halted. And but Dennis Rodman's, when Jonathan Majors was supposed to star as Dennis Rodman, that I was here for that. That would have been chaotic. And Jonathan Majors, I mean, he's an excellent actor. You know, So that's something that I was really looking forward to. I think that this might be a hot take, but I think we get a little bit too many biopics. Like, I think this is a lot. And I don't know, maybe if some people really want to see those people, but I just feel like we have a lot of biopics, but that would have been like something I really wanted to see.
I can see that, but I mean, I guess it's a story that hasn't been told, so somebody got to tell it at some.
I feel that.
So yeah. Jazz, did you have any people's thoughts for this one? I don't think
I forgot to post about it.
Good. Good. But we got our Linkathron section, the section where we put you guys on to a movie or TV show someone from Rustin has appeared in before or coming up. Jazz, we will start with you.
Yes. I am going to go with our good sister, Davina Joy Randolph. She was Mahala Jackson. She's an actress that we've been seeing a lot. She's been winning a lot of awards and everything for her movie, The Holdovers. And so the Oscars are tonight. So good luck to sis. Hopefully she'll be able to get her first Oscar. So yes, I'm going to do her movie, The Holdovers. I haven't seen it, but I'm definitely planning on checking it out.
Same. Chris, what you got, sir?
His name, I might mispronounce it. Emil Amin, but he played Dr. King. He was in Maze Runner. He was Albie, and I did not recognize him at all. Total transformation. If nothing else, he definitely showed his range in this because he played a totally different character in that. Maze Runner is an excellent series. Love that trilogy a lot.
I feel like I need to start one of those trilogies, but I'm not sure where I should start because like Maze Runner, I'm gonna throw Harry Potter in there, I guess. The Divergence. Is that what they're
Divergent?
Called? Divergent series.
I've heard excellent things about Divergence.
I hear all positives, and I'm like, I should start one.
I would say, I would throw, not to give you more, but Hunger Games, I would throw in there too.
Yeah, I need to check that out.
I would
We
say
literally just talked about all these.
I would say honestly, I haven't seen Divergence, so I can't include that. Maze Runner might be better than the other two.
It is. Maze Runner is the better.
Maze
Runner is the better one.
Yeah, it's absolutely fire.
I didn't watch Hunger Games though, so I can't even really speak on it. But
it's fire.
I do think. For me, hopefully I haven't done this before or this year. But I wanted to do, where did he go? Grantham Coleman. He played Blyden. He plays Ronnie in Raising Kanan. Yeah, he studied Michael Myers for his role. So seeing him, well, I think I seen him in Ronnie first, then I seen him in this But just seeing his character over there was just like, man, he did a real good job. So it's definitely like it very small speaking, but looking at it here, it's definitely different. So he is showing his range. But yeah, he was real dope character. He's a real dope character on Raven Canaan. Yeah.
Somebody to keep a lookout for upcoming projects.
For sure. You know, they did them 50 ones, man. They be, you know, like I said, the last guy was in, you know, Book of Clarence, so you never know. You never know. But man, that was episode 93, right? 93. Rustin, Chris, you want to lead the people with what you got going on, what you have, anything you want to shout out and put out there for us, brother?
Yeah, y'all can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. I'm more active on Twitter at Chris the Flair. Talk about movies, sports, also blog. I've been posting more on the blog. About mainly about football right now. Been doing some freelance writing, so been kind of like double dipping, putting stuff both places. But you can follow me at Crazy Scary Cool. Yeah, that's what I do. Just to hear my thoughts. Always love being on here. Also, yeah, like just like study the Black history, like myself included. There's a ton of history that is a huge well, and like we definitely got to keep these stories alive because I feel kind of ashamed of myself that I've never heard of Rustin until watching this movie.
Jazz, you have anything for the people?
Just want to say, as always, thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. Episode 93, 7 away from 100. Appreciate everybody that follows, subscribes, engages with us. We got some nice stuff coming in the future. But yeah, appreciate all of y'all.
Yeah, man. Again, appreciate everybody for listening, tapping in, speaking with us, growing with us, sharing it with other people, man. Hopefully, keeping this enjoyable, keeping it going. We keeping it rocking, man. Episode 93, Rustin. This is the WasItGoodTho podcast. I am Jason.
I am Jazz.
And this I got Chris. Until next, deuces.
Cheers.